So this is a really important kind of concept, and this is actually getting to a little bit of Stoic philosophy. The idea behind this is that you can only control the things that you can control, and discovering what's in your control and what's outside of your control really frees you and limits you to the ability to control the things that you can. And by controlling the things that you can, then you can actually make changes and manipulate the world. So, the first thing that you want to do is understand what you can and can't control. For example, you cannot control the weather. If it's going to rain, it's going to rain. But what can you control? Well, you can carry an umbrella with you. That's one thing that you can control. So, you can be upset about the rain. If you walk out and you get wet, you can be upset about the rain, but it's not productive. It doesn't solve any problems, and next time you won't achieve anything. But if you decide instead to carry an umbrella with you, if you learn from that mistake of not having an umbrella with you and from then on decide to carry an umbrella with you, then the next time it rains, you have that solution. So think about it in terms of learning, growing, and improving yourself. Anytime something bad happens to you, look at that situation and look at anything that happened in there. And by bad, really what I mean is something that's unpredictable, that gave you an outcome that you don't enjoy. So it doesn't I don't necessarily mean something catastrophic. Rain is a really good example. Another good example of something that's, you're unexpected that you don't enjoy is, let's say you're wanting to go to a store and buy something, and you go to that store and you find out they're closed. Well, that's out of your control. Whether or not that store is open or not is totally out of your control. But what was in your control? What was in your control was going online and looking to see their hours of operation ahead of time. So you have two choices in those types of situations. You can rant and rave. You can post negative comments online. You can say these guys are lazy. What's wrong with them? But that doesn't change anything. Nothing's changed. Or you can learn from that and tell yourself from now on, I will call ahead of time, or I will check the listing ahead of time. I will make sure that it's available ahead of time. So finding what is in your control and what is outside of your control, and then controlling those things, that's going to be what will achieve long-term growth, development, and good outcomes. Then the bad things won't happen as often. By bad, I mean when you predict something and the prediction goes wrong in a way that you didn't desire. So every now and then a good thing happens. A good thing happens that you didn't predict, and you call that luck. You say, oh, that was luck. But when things go wrong, when you make a prediction and you get there and it's something that you didn't want to happen, we say that's bad. So that's what we mean by good and bad. That's what we mean by good luck, bad luck. All it is it's a shortage in your prediction ability. That's really all we mean by good luck and bad luck. But good luck and bad luck can be mitigated if you set in the proper controls. So learn a lesson one time. If it rains on you one time, then from then on, carry an umbrella with you. You shouldn't get rained on again. You can't control the weather, but you can definitely control whether or not you have an umbrella. And the same thing is true with every other aspect of life. Tomorrow's election day, and this is a great time to understand that whole concept of you can only control what you can control. You cannot control a politician. You cannot control what a politician does. Now, you can do your research and you can cast your vote towards the candidate that you think would most effectively vote your way or represent you in the best possible way. But you have absolutely no control over that politician. You can be upset when they do something that you don't like. You can rant and rave. But the truth is, they're going to do what they're going to do. And you have limited, but some control in those situations. And also, a lot of times, those things that are outside of your control don't affect you in the way that you think that they do. So we like to bring all politics and stuff, the kind of stuff that we're passionate about, we like to bring those down into a personal level. And to a certain extent, everything becomes personal at one time or another. There's no doubt that what politicians do affect us, but we can't control those things. Whereas what we can control is, is a politician going to make some policy that's going to cause you to lose your job? That's entirely possible. But can you expand your skill set? Can you learn additional skills? Can you network and make friends with other business leaders? Or can you meet with other employees from different walks of life that all have different opportunities, and then expand your skill set that would apply to different organizations, so that if that politician makes those terrible decisions, you lose your job, you have the ability to jump to someplace else? You can absolutely do that. That is within your control. So ranting, raving, being upset about politicians, being upset about decisions they make, that doesn't accomplish anything. Now, again, that's not to say there's anything wrong with being passionate. That's not to say that you shouldn't have political opinions. That's not to say that your political opinions are wrong. They're just limited. And understanding your limits are incredibly important to both your mental well-being and actual productivity. Is it productive to be upset about a certain politician? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, there are definitely situations where you might live in an area where a certain political party has a ton of influence, and you are not going to change that influence individually. Now, you might be able to have some impact, and again, you always hear the stories, and there are stories of, the one citizen that changes everything. Most of those are fiction, by the way. Most of those people cite things like Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, but Mr. Smith Goes to Washington is not a true story. That's a complete work of fiction. So don't delude yourself into thinking these types of things. And honestly, a lot of people use these types of global macro things that they can't control as an excuse to not put their own lives in order. How often do you know someone that's willing to, go and do some kind of charity work in some third world country and try to save all of the children and try to save the world and do all of that kind of stuff, but they ignore their own kids? That kind of story happens all the time, sadly and unfortunately. And really, it's just a way of them putting off taking care of their own family, and it happens a lot. But for your own mental health, for your own well-being, it's really important to understand that you can only control what you can control. You have to identify what it is in that area that you can control, and then control it maximally. And what will happen is, as you control it, that sphere of influence of your control will expand out on and on and on and on. So don't focus on the things you can't control. Learn from the bad luck that you have. Turn it into good luck. And I know that you guys are going to do an awesome job with that.